So here's where I began. I was 24 years old when I called my parents, told them I was going to quit my job and I was going to start this company called Sandstorm. So I was actually an art major, not just an art major in design, but I was a painter, like actually painting on canvas and building my own canvases. And Sandstorm was actually my nickname in college because I used to have art classes from 9 to 12, 2 to 5, 7 to 10 at night. And then I would storm into my friends' dorm rooms to see who wanted to go out for last call. So they started calling me Sandy of the Storm, Sandstorm. And before you know it, 20 years later, I now have a company. But how did that happen, right? So I call my parents. I tell them I want to quit my job. They say, that's okay. If it doesn't work out, you can always move back home. So that was enough motivation for me to figure it out. And what I did is I bought a book. Because as an art major, you actually don't really have any classes on business. I didn't really know how to start a business. And I had never really worked for an agency, or I've never sold anything but jeans at the Gap. So I literally bought this book on how to start a business. Then I bought a book on how to code HTML. And then I started studying search engine optimization because I had read an article on the difference between marketing and sales. And that sales is that you have to pick up the phone, but marketing, they pick up the phone and call you. And I said, ooh, I think I like marketing a lot better. I think I'd much rather have somebody calling me rather than me have to call them. So I build my own website, again, self-taught, start optimizing my site for search engine optimization. And much to my surprise, I literally get my first lead within 24 hours. And that was Career Builder. And they actually had a huge impact on my business. I kept Career Builder for over 10 years and millions of dollars in revenue, all because I thought, oh, let me see how this works. And what's crazy about this is that it's actually built us into this agency beyond what I could have imagined. So we're Drupal Acquia certified. We've got our own team. We're located at headquarters in Chicago. We've got 4 other locations. We have an on-site usability lab. We've done over 3,400 hours of UX research. We've got brand strategists, creatives, user experience, Drupal dev, data science. We get to do work for amazing clients like the National Association of Realtors and University of Chicago. And we've been featured on CNBC, Fortune Magazine, the Inc. 5000, 101 best places to work. It really is kind of awesome. I still can't believe it's real. But today I'm really going to share 5 lessons I've learned as I've grown the agency because here's what you need to know. It hasn't always been easy. And I know a lot of you also are running teams, right? I didn't live any kind of fairy tale life. I had a lot of bumps in the road. And today I really want to share some of those behind the scenes struggles and what we did to overcome them. And again, what I said earlier, you could truly ask me anything. I'm happy to share. I only got here because of the small business owners ahead of me and the managers that I'd had that helped me answer the questions. And they were really honest about the road ahead. So go ahead, just add your questions to the chat if you want to. And a quick little shout out to my friend, Mike Silverman. I saw that he just jumped in. Hello, and thanks for joining. So without further ado, I love this quote, "A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor," because the reality is in any kind of leadership role, if you don't hit bumps, you don't get the opportunity to learn from them. So you need to go through these trying times so that you can come back ahead a stronger, better leader. It's just part of what growing up is for all of us. So here's my story. I hit what I thought was going to be my big, audacious goal. I hit my first $1 million in revenue. But when you first start on your own, you think like $1 million in revenue is huge, right? You just think it's so much money. And at the time, only 4% of American businesses ever hit $1 million in revenue. And today in 2020, it's actually now 7%. So it's a lot smaller number, that I really thought when you think about it, because it includes, the Amazons of the world, but it also includes the dry cleaners and, anyone who's starting up their company. And even a little side story about hitting that first million in revenue. And please keep in mind, million in revenue does not mean $1 million in my pocket. It basically means that we had just sold that much. I still had to give it to staff and, expenses, but it was my husband who had actually called me, and what he had said, I still remember it. He was like, welcome to the 4%. And I was like, no, because you just never think that you're actually going to get there. So here I was, exactly where I dreamed I would be someday, surpassing this revenue goal that I never thought I'd actually do. But I found myself not wanting to go to my own office, the one that I created. Here's the reality. I don't know. It was just so much going on. Doors were being slammed, phones were being slammed, people were yelling at each other. There was just so much drama. I had like random employees threatening to quit because they were having a bad day. Then they'd calm down. Then they'd go back to their desk like nothing happened. I didn't get it. I wasn't like that. I was leading by example. My world, it's filled with rainbows and sunshines and unicorns. I'm pretty happy most of the time. I'm pretty optimistic, kind. Like, what the heck was going on? Why was there all this drama all the time? I was leading by example. So what was wrong with them? What was wrong with my team? So I did what most people do. I self-diagnosed. I searched for answers on Google. It's funny how, looking back, I actually thought the problem was my team. I thought the problem was my people. I thought the problem was them and the conflict in the workplace. It didn't take too many articles to realize that the problem wasn't them. It was me. Article after article said if I didn't like the drama, if I didn't like the culture, that it was my fault. So to the managers out there, you might be saying, hey, I can't change or modify the entire culture of my company. Maybe not, but you absolutely can in your team. And it's okay if you manage 2 people, 5 people, 10 people, 50 people. I think this is the place, this is the realization that I came to. Basically, all the articles told me, if there was something that I didn't like about my team, it was 100% my fault. So this leads me to my first lesson. You are what you tolerate. You need to step up and speak up. So I'm going to give you an example. Unfortunately, you have the responsibility of working on this all the time. It never ends. I remember one time was one of my UX designers didn't want to take a call from a client. He actually said, that's not my job. It was the project manager who just happened to not be around that day. I heard it. Everyone on my team heard it, right? We have an open office. And it was that moment. What do? Do I say something? Do I say something in private? Do I just let it go? Here's what I chose to do. I immediately stood up and I asked, what did you say? All heads turned to me. All heads turned to him. And he quickly said, I said, I'd be happy to take that call. Transfer it to me. Everyone knew I was there. We could all hear him. If I had said nothing, it would have become acceptable. Those are the silent rules that you are making without ever realizing it. So, how did I fix it? I sent out a company meeting, and it was called the best company I've ever worked for. I took the same exact UX philosophy that we have, where we ask our users what it is that they want, what motivates them, what's important to them. My research participants happen to be my employees. I just asked them, think about the best company you've ever worked for. And quite frankly, I don't really care if it was working at a bar or I used to work at the Gap. I loved it, right? Like, I don't really care what kind of company it was. Just think about the best company you've ever worked for. I gave everybody like note cards and pens, and individually, I just had them think about their favorite job and write down why. What was it that made it so great? It seems really simple, but it's a great lesson for any leader, and it applies to so many things. So this is going to lead to my second lesson. Number 2, learn what's important to your team. We're all individuals. No culture is exactly the same. You don't need to replicate somebody else's. This is the beauty of being the leader or being a future leader, knowing what you're responsible for. Do you want to hear what my team said? I'm just going to believe I've got a whole bunch of virtual head nods going on right now. These are the things they wanted. I want to master a task and be able to prove it. I want to share knowledge and mentor. I want to feel valued with a heartfelt connection. I want unexpected cash bonuses, money, money, money. I want quiet spaces, group lunches, people around a mission. These aren't really unusual things, but this is what was really, really, really important to my team. And you can do and follow the same type of research philosophy just by doing one-on-one interviews or doing a group conversation. I did a group conversations because we needed to cover a whole lot of things, which I'll continue here. And I have no regrets on that. But it's truly around following a UX philosophy, gathering research that I continue to use today. So when we had an office expansion, I did research with my own employees. And so we built a chef's kitchen because people wanted to cook. They wanted to bake cookies. Some had like healthy meals they actually wanted to make. We do breakfast bar where we'll bring in, pancake mix and eggs, and we'll be able to cook breakfast because we now have a kitchen. They wanted an idea lab. We also have a Hogwarts library. Okay. And this is basically a dark, dark dungeon painted in dark, dark gray with no light, no talking zone. And you can always find like the Drupal developers in there. There is always, it's kind of like this whole thing, like give me a dark cave and I'm happy. So we built it, right? And yet again, I did this for COVID. That's the coolest part. You don't have to guess. I conducted research with my employees, with my team about their safety, their concerns. And at this time, we're not going back to the office. We don't have to, right? And we've got plenty of work that we can do working in this environment. We get to do what we want. And you know what I told them? I was like, guys, we're boarding group 6. Relax, take your time, let me know. I give them mental health days, right? Because I'm hearing back from them. Some of them are struggling a little bit with it, making sure, encouraging that they have time off this summer, right? Just, Rolando, the dark cave. I know it is really funny when we take clients through there, and it's all decorated in Hogwarts too. But again, there's so many ways that you can apply this. So not only did I get what was important to them, we also talked back to that best company I've ever worked for meeting. We also talked about words that they would use to describe Sandstorm, right? How would they describe our culture? And then words they use to describe the best company they'd ever worked for and what that culture looked like. So at the end of the company meeting, I had a huge whiteboard, right? Everyone was volunteering all the cool things that they said. We had them written up everywhere, words that they would use to describe. And this is what I told them. I'm going to make the changes necessary to get us there. That is my promise to you. I will incorporate what's really important to you. We will build around it. It's not going to happen overnight, but I am absolutely committed to this. In return, there's going to be some new ground rules, which is my third lesson. You need to establish some ground rules with your team, and you need to write them down. My first rule: if you threaten to quit, I accept your resignation. I was done with that because it was words. No one was actually quitting. But this whole threaten thing, it was out of control. I think how it happened, one person did it once, and then before I knew it, someone else was doing it. It was just ridiculous, right? So that was the first rule. If you threaten to quit, I accept your resignation. Thank you very much. We're all good. You know what? Not a single person has ever threatened to quit since that day. And Faye, thank you. Love it. Calling the bluff. Heck yes. I totally agree. But this comes down to, like I said, right? You got to step up, right? You are what you tolerate. And I tolerated that. I didn't know. I was truly a first-time business owner, a first-time leader. I didn't have leadership skills. I didn't have any leadership experience. At this time, I didn't even have a mentor, right? I just kept thinking if I led one way, they would follow. And this is what I learned. You know, you got to have some ground rules. And now, if any of you have noticed my buddy behind me, this is why. He's got a little cameo appearance here. My another ground rule: no freaking drama, period. Okay. We have way too much to do, way too much to get done. We should be adults. Leave the drama behind. And I will tell you, for any of you that have to go and hire people for your team, this has drastically changed our hiring process. Okay. So another takeaway for you today: we look for drama in the interview process. So what do I mean by that? And what does drama look like? Here's an example. Maybe someone reschedules their interview a couple times for whatever their drama moment is, right? Oh, something's wrong with my cat, or something's wrong with my dog, or something's wrong with my car, or something's wrong with this. I mean, once that's fine, like the accidents happen, but you'll see the person who's got the drama. Or someone shares all the drama from their past jobs in your interview. Red flag, red flag. Okay. If a candidate creates drama during the interview process, cut, gone, moving on. And here's the deal: that candidate is their best self in the interview. If they bring drama to the interview, I promise you the drama monster is going to be in your organization. It's going to take away from efficiency. It's going to really not only stress out, but unmotivate your most motivated teammates, right? That drama, it's a time suck. There's just everything about it. And when I saw this piece of art behind me, or, oh, I'm sorry, I guess in the camera, it's probably this way. Let me look. Oh, no, it's this way. Okay. This guy reminds me all the time. No drama. I even feel the same way in my personal life. Even with my family and with my kids. I don't know. Life is too short. I much prefer just to focus on the positives. So if there's one thing that you really take away from this, you can spot the drama from a mile away. And I have to laugh about my next hire. In one of our questions that we did for reference checks, I literally asked, like, this is the most non-dramatic interview we've ever had. I'm not even sure the dude smiled, right? He was just very like driven, focused work. Anyway, so we call his reference and we say, hey, any drama? And the dude laughed. He was like, have you met him? He's the least drama guy we've ever hired. And I was like, thank you very much. That's exactly what I needed. And we hired him. We said, hey, when you continue to build out your team, no drama, please. Right. And it was actually, and I think about that guy that said at one point we were building on multiple CMSs. He was like, look, it's just Drupal. And this was back in Drupal 6. It's Drupal 6 all the way. We're going all in with Drupal. And that's what we did. back from Drupal 6. So ground rules like these, this is just a couple examples, they actually lead to something deeper. Here's, again, I'm basically just sharing all the issues and mistakes that I made. But I had found that I had certain expectations about how people should interact with clients, how they should interact with one another, how we should address things. And here's what I found. I felt like I was repeating myself all the time. And guess what? I was. But unfortunately, my brain only remembered that I was repeating myself all the time. It didn't realize that I was ridiculously repeating myself to the same like 2 people all day long. And the remaining crew, I just hadn't been saying the same thing to. So I'd get like frustrated. Like, why don't they get that this is what we're supposed to do? Or why aren't they responding in a certain way? Or why aren't they doing this? Or why aren't they doing that? Right? And that's when, again, self-diagnosed, I don't get it. It was when I came to the realization, I told you with lesson number 3, you got to write it down. The same thing with expectations, because here's the reality. The people you work with, almost every single one of them wants to do a good job every single day. They want to do great work. They don't want to let you down. They want to know what's expected of them. So you need to write it down. We call ours our Sandstorm Expectations. And I'm going to give you guys a couple examples of them, but I'm going to kind of breeze through them looking at time. So we've got like client response times, just so that everyone knows. And a lot of you guys that are in an agency or even in-house know, like, hey, what's expected of me? We also had one over fridge cleanup. Oh gosh, if I had to have this conversation one more time, as well as about like dishes, right? Yes, sorry, I just saw one pop up. Someone wanted to know if my slides are going to be available. Absolutely. And the intent of these slides are so that you guys could use them. So you could just pull out the little lessons if you wanted to. You can use them to manage up if you wanted to. You can use them to talk to your own team if you wanted to. You can, no problem, Letitia. You could absolutely, I don't even care. This is the spirit of sharing. You could take all the words off my page and use them at your organization. This is how we all get better as a world, as a community, is through sharing. It's all about what can I share with you, and this is how I got here. So please take this away. Little things, again, like the fridge cleanup, because I was so annoyed with everybody. Again, oh, another sign. If you're annoyed with everybody, it's probably your fault. You'll see like a common theme. I started learning everything was my fault, but there's ways around it. Other things. Oh, good. Another pet peeve. Again, I feel like I'm basically exposing the engine and showing the inside view of what goes on at Sandstorm. Spell check and proofreading. Here's the deal. Every wireframe, every user flow, every creative UX design concept, anything you send out, email, project manager report, data report, anything, you have to get the spelling right. Because if you don't, even if there's like one tiny typo, you could have spent hundreds of hours on the work, and the client or whoever your sponsor is going to think it's sloppy if you misspelled something. I still get like panic attacks over the word January because of something that went out that was misspelled, right? And we try to catch it. This is built into our culture. This is who we are, right? And you need to check every single time. And I know it's a pet peeve, and I'm not a perfectionist. I mean, I try not to be. But this little thing, I would hate to devalue a group's amount of work just because of a little typo. It is human nature. If you see an error, you automatically think there's more errors, right? So I don't know. Maybe it's a gift. Maybe it's an obsession. Probably a little bit of both. But I have a 12 and 13-year-old, and they're absolutely amazed when they give me a paper that I could actually find this typo within like 3 seconds. And it drives them freaking crazy. One more. Here's something else. Oh, Carrie, sweet. I got someone who shares my obsession. So you make me feel like I'm not so OCD. Anyway, in addition to writing down expectations, even something as simple as like answering the phone, you'd be surprised how many people say like, what should I say? Or what should I say in my voicemail? Sometimes this is someone who's maybe only had 1 or 2 jobs in their career, or it could be someone who's been in a career for 30 years. You don't know. And at the end of the day, if you realize that the people that you work with all just want to be awesome like you, that it's okay to just kind of share what the expectation is, but give them a lot of flexibility to add their own personality to with it too. So in addition to writing down the expectations, I also took that user research I did with my staff, the employee research, and kind of synthesized all the data and bucketed it down to what were the values that we shared. Words that they used to describe us that would make sense in something that was interesting, that we could relate to, that could be unique to us. And we created 3 core values. And then my creative team helped name the buckets, which leads me to the 4th lesson. You really need to define your values to work by, hire by, and live by. And I'll tell you something that was a little scary for me at first. Once we had created these buckets and we had these values, I actually had someone raise their hand and say, what if I don't agree with that? And the reality is I did lose some employees. And that was at a time that I don't know. I don't know that I was ready for that, but now I'm preparing you that that might happen. It was absolutely the best thing to happen, right? Because you need people that are all aligned around values. And if you make them very, very clear, easy to remember, easy to say, I don't have them on posters in the wall. It's nothing like that. Behavioral psychology says that people will remember 3. They'll remember 3 things. After that, they'll forget them all. That's what's so bizarre. If I would have had 5, they might have remembered very few of them, but 3, they're going to actually remember. So I did 3, and we actually talk about our core values and have been talking about our core values for many, 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 many years. And we talk about them once a month. And you might think that sounds extreme, but not really when you're hiring by them, when you're living by them, when you have awards by them. Aha, you want to know which ones they didn't agree with? Well, you know what I'm going to do? Thanks, Ben, for bringing it up. I would love to share them with you. You guys want to see the 3 core values? I'll start with one of my favorites. The warrior spirit. What does it mean to have the warrior spirit? It means we are all in this together. And when I say all, it's not just my team, but it's my team combined with the client team, right? You're never left behind. And it even is around the office. Like, let's say someone's working late. We have a kind of a warrior spirit attitude where you don't just leave one person at the office, even if it's not even in your division. It could be a developer working on something and maybe you're in project management, or it could be a UX person and maybe you're in creative, right? Like, who knows what it is? But we will just have the, ask like, hey, can I help you with something? Maybe they need to bounce ideas off of you, or maybe they just don't want to be the last one there. But being a warrior spirit is when it feels like the impossible deadline is here, or it feels like you've been given what feels like an impossible task. It could be anything, but it's all really about having the attitude that you can do it. And Ben, I think your question was, hey, what was one that someone had a problem with? This was one of them. I didn't have it named at the time of warrior spirit, but all being in it together. That's why this individual happened to be more of an individual person rather than a team person. So that's where there was a little bit of a misfit. So Ben, thank you for that question while we're in this. I want to give you an example. So the warrior spirit is so true to who we are. We actually have a warrior spirit award that we give every month for someone who's gone above and beyond. And one of the warrior spirit awards this year was to a duo, Alma and James, because we had just landed this new large enterprise level website project. The client had a conference. This was in February before all the COVID shutdown. And within a week and a half, We were going down to the conference in Texas in order to do a usability study. So we had to write the protocol. We had to set up the usability study. We had to understand the client. We had to recruit the participants and go spend 2 days there doing a combination of task-based usability studies as well as in-depth interviews, then wrap up, right? Wrap up so we can have some insights to then drive how we're going to move forward with the full-fledged development. So they got, right, the Warrior Spirit Award because in a matter of basically 7 to 10 days, they had pulled together everything that they needed and flown to Texas and wrangled literally everybody to knock it out of the park for that particular client. We have a Warrior Spirit Award was given to someone else who had to do research around the United States, who flew from Chicago to California to Florida to Boston back to Chicago in 1 week. She was freaking exhausted, right? So warrior spirit, okay, and let me be really clear. I'm showing you some examples that make it sound like we work these crazy hours. That's not it. This is the stuff that we're passionate about that's really fun. It just happened to be these unique situations that come up. And a fun little side note, I'm actually a black belt in Taekwondo. It was something I did in my early 20s. So I really like the tie-in with the warrior spirit, and my technology director is a black belt in Aikido. So the two of us, when we're like in a pitch, it's a really fun way to be like, oh, and by the way, we're going to protect you. You know, I don't train anymore. I used to spar. My nose is actually man-made. I got it busted and shattered, and then they had to put it all back together again. And that was the end of me in Taekwondo. But okay, that was core value number 1. Sorry, I digress. The second core value, I love this. Be curious. I am a lifelong learner. I went back to grad school at Northwestern just for fun. Someday I want to get my PhD. I'm not sure in what. Sometimes I think alien sounds cool. Sometimes I think color theory sounds cool. Thank goodness my husband is super flexible and says whatever you want to do is fine. But we love spongy people that love to learn, right? This is what I love about DrupalCon. There's so many different topics at so much time. I mean, there's so much that you can learn. I have thoroughly enjoyed all of this, right? And another example about being curious and how does this represent within a corporate business? Jeff, one of our senior architects, he did a whole share out over lunch one day following being curious on Layout Builder for Drupal and taught everybody about Layout Builder, right? So that's just a way you could be curious and you can share it. So again, for today, I'll answer anything because you guys are all just being curious, absolutely applying one of our core values. Third core value, have fun. We only have one life. You guys, we spend so much time with each other when we're working. We spend more time with our work friends than we do with our family. So we might as well enjoy it. So what we do is a super secret Sandstorm event every year, and I'm quite devastated. It's usually in August. We're not going to be able to do it this year. So I'm still trying to think of something else I can do. But we've done some really cool, fun stuff. So it started with things that were simple, like the Cubs game. So because we're not so far from the Cubs Stadium in Chicago. And I've got offices across the United States in Denver, Charlotte, Dallas, and Seattle. I fly in my team, right? And we did a Cubs game. We've also done the like the Arlington racetrack, and I did something in honor of my grandma. My grandma passed away just a couple weeks ago, or I'm sorry, a couple years ago. And my grandma used to put like a little $20 bill in my hand and be like, "Here, honey, you know, go spend this." And I'd be like, "Oh, thanks, Graham. I don't really need your money. You kind of do." And she'd be like, "Oh, no, here you go." So at the racetrack, I gave everybody a little $20 bill, just like my grandma, so that they would go bet. Because if they're anything like me, I actually don't gamble. I feel like I gamble a lot in life and business. So I don't really gamble. But if someone gave me 20 bucks, then I'd go gamble on the horses. We've done a beercade. We rented a boat on Lake Michigan, and we got to see the air and water show. But it's a part of who we are, just having a little bit of fun. Which leads me to my last lesson. Lesson number 5, you need to celebrate your successes, big and small, and I'd recommend doing it every month. And this, I'm going to explain what we call this. We call our company meetings You Rocks. So they're not really company meetings, but they're kind of company meetings. But again, they're called UROCs. And how this started is I was at this event and I bought a packet of tie-dyed little note cards. There were 80 of them. And it said like "You Rock" on it. And I thought, oh, wouldn't this be fun to have at the office where people could rock one another? You know, like say thank you for the little things, because we'll celebrate the big wins like woo, woo, $500,000 SOW, woo, woo, and everyone does a happy dance. But what about the thank you? I left my wallet at home. I didn't have lunch and someone spotted me. Or the thank you, you got the client, like the creative concept, nailed it the first time. Like there's a lot of reasons that you want to say thank you, but they get forgotten unless you start doing them every month. So when I first bought this pack of UROCs, like 80 of them, I actually expected to go through the pack of 80 over the course of, I don't know, a year or two. It seemed reasonable, right? I figured, oh, there'd be a couple UROCs that people would give for something that had happened during that month. And I'll tell you, we actually go through 80 to 100 a month. And there have been times where we've been absolutely overloaded. We actually had to move the UROC meeting from an hour to an hour and a half. And I also brought in lunch, you know. But I'll tell you what was super cool about it. If it's a meeting really about your team, letting your team thank each other and getting a shout out for it, everyone shows up, right? And we'll talk a little bit about company things like, oh, hey, we won this, or we've got some new hires, and we'd introduce them. Or at the UROCs, we'll also say, oh, hey, we're looking for these hires. So like right now, we're hiring for some Drupal developers and OpenStack PHP backend developers, but we really have a need as we're growing for more Drupal developers. So that's something that we'll talk about. And I think the next hire after that's probably going to be a Scrum Master or a product owner, right? Again, it's more growth. We're seeing a really strong Q3, Q4. So what does that look like? And we'll talk about it at a UROC. But the only rule to UROC is that I can't rock anyone. And the reason for that is that it's not about me playing favorites. So if you're the leader of the team, this shouldn't be about you. This is not an ego session. Okay. I brought a couple for you if you wanted to see them, because it's getting a little, they got really crazy at this point, or just fun, because now we have to do everything virtual. And it's really good anyway for my other offices, because UROCs are kind of weird when they're pieces of paper. We put them in the mail and we mail them. But I want to show you some examples. First one, Team NMMA, Max, Mel, Eric, Joe, Kathleen. Thank you for all your hard work on the Aqua Discover boating site. We're near the finish line. You got this. You rock, Amanda. Right? And then there's a funny little clip. Brace yourself. Boat show season is coming. I don't know. Everyone just has their own sense of humor with these kinds of things. Here's another one. I don't know. I'm thinking you guys can see the little random animations. Nathan has a blast putting together as many random things, and he's a senior like UX designer, so he knows a lot about typography and he tries to make them as obnoxious as possible. But this one's for Andy, because he did this really cool Federal Reserve dev project, like his interactive tool experience, in like record time. So he's like, don't let anyone know we can build something that fast, right? From Nathan. Here's another example. Oh, for anyone who knows Poppy, Jana, you rock. Thanks for bringing your creative and inspiring vision to everything you do. Your UX skills and design thinking helps us solve complex problems and develop intuitive solutions. From Alma. It's very sweet. And one more. You rock, Max, for turning around your Drupal dev tickets around so fast. Pretty sure I got whiplash. And that was from Nick. Sometimes these are more work related, but sometimes, like I said, they're about food, or they'll be like, thanks for bringing that beer. We also have a beer fridge, but it's neither here nor there. These are just some examples that I wanted to show you. These are all from last month. I asked my admin, I was like, hey, can you pull me some of your faves? She's like, absolutely. And then I know they warned me a little bit about interactive kind of GIFs, but because we have to use these virtually anyway, I knew she'd send them to me correctly. So with that being said, I'm going to leave us a couple minutes for some questions, but I want to leave you with this last thought. It often feels, it really does, like I fail more than I succeed. But our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fail. I can already tell everyone here today has that curiosity in them. I'm willing to bet there's some warrior spirit in you. And who doesn't like to have a little bit of fun? So with a couple minutes we have left, I'm going to go through some questions, and I can't thank you enough for attending today. And I really hope, if you don't mind, fill out the survey. Again, lifelong learner. I would love to learn where I can improve. Any feedback you might have for me. And if you want to do a side conversation one-on-one, I'm around. This is the last thing that I have today. I'm going to be hanging out at the conference, checking out some more things. Like I said, I've just really thoroughly enjoyed the diversity, the diverse conversations, everything that I've heard. So let me see if I can get some of these questions in here. I'm going to do my best here, looking for the cues. I knew this is going to be the most complicated part. So let's see what we've got. And thanks so much. If you have a question, to start with a cue, or if you're welcome, you guys are welcome to jump in and just speak to me. I'll let you in. Let's see. Sorry, guys, I know I saw one. Okay, one from Ryan. How do you stop drama when you are not the CEO and enter a team or agency where that already exists? Yes, that is an excellent question. So the most that you can completely control is your own team. So if you lead a team, you can meet with your team and you could say, hey, I know that we've got all of this out here, but we don't have to live that way. And you could control and maintain your smaller environment. But the other thing I would consider, you might want to take this deck or have a good one-on-one, I don't know if you can, with the CEO, or come to the table with, if your CEO or maybe one of the C-suite, maybe you have an ops person, and say, hey, are they open for feedback? Because I know a lot of the CEOs I know they say open door policies. They want to hear what you think. They want to hear your ideas. I wouldn't hesitate to say, hey, do you think there's something I noticed? Or you could even say, hey, I was at DrupalCon and I heard this woman speak on leadership and drama, and I thought it sounded interesting. I don't know. It's a matter of you controlling your own mini team and then seeing if you could ask of leadership. The real challenge is going to be if it's your CEO with the drama, because I've had that question in the past. And that's a tricky one, because unless they're willing to self-diagnose and realize that it's them, there just might be drama in that space. But you do not have to have drama within your team, right? You are a leader and you get to kind of set the stage, which is really nice, especially in big companies, Let me see if I have any other questions. I answered Ben's already, which is which core value did someone not agree with? Yeah, again, it was the warrior spirit. And to build on that, not only was this particular individual preferred independent working rather than team working, he had an issue with insurance companies, and we had a large insurance company as a client. So he didn't want to be a warrior for an industry he didn't believe in. And I do have this philosophy that, I'm not going to make a vegan have to work in a meat packing company. And we personally don't do anything with politics. We don't do anything with guns. We don't do anything with porn, right? Like, there's just some things from a value perspective we just won't work in. So I won't have someone if they have a true conflictive value. But insurance, I don't know. Is that really something you're against? I don't know. It was a unique situation. Let me see if I've got any other questions in here. Thank you, Eric, for the comment. You are what you tolerate. You said you are what you accept, but you are what you tolerate. Your culture is being built by you saying nothing within your team or within your company. Nothing actually says something. Whatever you're tolerating, that is now deemed acceptable without you ever saying that's acceptable. And here's the crazy thing when I go back to core values. I don't know if you guys know this, but one of Enron's core values was integrity. And we know how that turned out, right? I intentionally didn't want to use any of those words because no one believes them. Let's see if I have any other questions. Okay, Rolando, how do you manage people's feelings in terms of the quote unquote you rock? I know you have the no drama rule, but sometimes people will do good work and not get recognized and feel bad because they didn't get a you rock note. Rolando, thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to say, in all the exit interviews I've done, I also do half-hour one-on-one interviews with with my staff a couple times throughout the year. This is something that's never come up. I would actually say the opposite is true. Because remember, so many are being created. I had one guy leave and said the most valuable thing that they had gotten, they had taken their stack of UROCs. And whenever they were feeling down, they would just sit down and read their UROCs. So yes, that is possible. But I'll say, just because I don't write the UROCs, the managers very rarely, very, very rarely forget somebody. And I know that is possible, but I think that's part of adulting too. Like sometimes you're not going to get recognized. And I don't know, I think in our culture, we over recognize, and maybe that's not even possible, but you can always tell what month, what projects launched, or what was really stressful, or what was like a big deal, because the UROCs are all about it all day long. So I really appreciate that question, because it can happen. I can tell you in our case that has not happened. No, correction. That has not been brought up to me in an exit interview or in a one-to-one, or we have like this anonymous part where you could like write something that I should know that no one's telling me. None of that has come up. Has it happened? Probably, but then maybe the UROC they got last week made up for it. But thank you for asking that question. Okay, so Eric, is this a question or just a comment? There's an app for that. Bucketlist.org allows all staff to give points. Oh, okay. Eric, thank you. So Eric is sharing with us that there's basically an app called Bucketlist.org that collects UROCs, if I think I'm understanding this correctly. It says it allows all staff to give points to other team members to recognize them for being awesome. Oh, someone's saying it could be like gaming the system, but overall people like it. Yeah, I guess it's very similar, except you get nothing for this. Like our UROCs, you don't get really points for. So it's not really a contest. It is genuinely just a thank you. Nothing more than showing gratitude. But thank you, Eric, for that. I'm going to look at bucketlist.org. It could be a cool way to manage it, because we have found that it got a little bit unmanageable at times. Okay, question for Bree. It sounds to me like you as a CEO have an underlying unspoken core value of valuing your team and demonstrating that through action. Thank you, Bree. Is that something you have explicitly written out for yourself? That is a really great question. So I do write like visions for myself and like dreaming what the future could look like. I do a lot of work on how to improve as a leader. But did I write out that I valued my team and that I would demonstrate that? I didn't, but thank you for that. I don't think I had that as an intention. I think it happened as a result of having these amazing people I get to work with that I really, really adore. So maybe it's genuine. And that's kind of the cool part when you get to essentially hire everybody. Even though I don't interview every person that's hired at the company, at the end of the day, we kind of all know we don't want any, like, I don't want to use any curse words. So we only want like awesome people. And we even say a little bit weird, because they seem to do really well here. If you are trying to be cool, like, I don't, there's nothing really that cool about me. I've never really been that cool. So let's see if there's a second question. Oh, there's a second half to this, Bree. Thank you. And do you have any other personal guiding values that you lean on as a leader behind your company's core values? Yes. I actually worked with a coach to figure out what my personal mission was, right? So our company mission is really simple. We just want to do good work for good people. That's it, right? So when we are looking at new clients or new opportunities, are they good people? That's literally the first thing, like my sales team will say. Good person. Oh my God, they're a good person. So when we're doing happy dances, it's because they're good people and they're cool projects, right? Because that's the mission. But that wasn't for me, that was for the company. So I worked with a coach, and what I figured out was that my mission was actually to provide exceptional jobs for exceptional people. So when my kids ask me what I do for a living, I tell them I provide jobs. That's actually why I'm growing the business. We surpassed my goals so many years ago beyond anything I ever imagined. Remember, I'm just a painter. I was just an art major who bought a book and starting a business, who taught herself HTML and SEO, who happened to just like marketing, right? This is nothing well planned. But once I realized that I loved providing jobs, and the number of messages I have gotten from Sandstorm alumni that said being there transformed my trajectory of where I'm at in my future, or, oh, I'm in grad school now getting my MBA. Oh my God, I totally get what you were doing here. Or can you mentor me? I have an old employee from 10 years ago who's starting off on her own and wrote me and said, I've never worked somewhere better. Can you mentor me? And absolutely. So the personal guiding value is truly around the mission. So if it's something you might want to figure out for yourself, I did need a coach to work through that. But again, I just assumed that I don't know much. And this coach did a really nice job helping me figure it out. And I also talked to another CEO that I really admired. And I asked him, how did you find your purpose? And he gave me like the most simple answer. He said, I figured out what I was good at. And then I figured out how I could contribute to the community with the skill that I was given. I like that. And that's actually what I'm teaching my kids too. Like, figure out what you're good at and then figure out how you can contribute to the community. And that's helping combo passion and purpose. So, Janie, I love this, including the kudos at a daily stand-up meeting. Yeah. And then echoing the big ones to upper management and make sure the devs are getting the recognition. Abso-frickin-lutely. Okay. And here's the reality. Not going stereotypical on you, but my dev team, there's a lot of introverts in there. There's a lot that won't necessarily speak for themselves, but they're doing phenomenal work and they're geniuses and they totally get it, right? And I know some of the recognition, they might blush a little, but this is really great. And you could start to record it. There's so much. And then when it comes time for like annual reviews or every 6 months or every 3 months, however your organization does it, what a great reminder of all the great work you've done rather than always talking about where there's opportunity for improvement. If you start with the good, humans are open to where there's work. Ben, thank you for the great job. Ryan leads a team meeting with appreciations. Same kind of concept. We just call them U-Rocks. We have like a little blow up guitar and I have so much U-Rock stuff. You'd be amazed. I have like U-Rock coffee mugs, U-Rock stickers, U-Rock cards. Everyone gives me U-Rocks. Yeah, Janie, I knew your stand up was stand up. So I've got Brian. Thank you. Brian saying he's a developer, not really in traditional leadership position, but it's been really helpful to make him a better team member. Yeah, even a thank you every once in a while. And remember, for those of you that aren't leaders, your boss is probably a little bit lonely. It's a little bit lonely when you're managing people because you can no longer have that same peer-to-peer relationship. And very rarely will they get a thank you. So that's just kind of a heads up. That's the kind of weirdest thing about being a CEO is not having, like, so many people just don't really say thank you. So let me see if there's anything else here. Faye said, if you have issues with drama, Google that term. Super simple concept that untangles so much. Amy, thank you for the plus. This has been really fun. And Eric's giving more information on bucket list. Oh my God, you guys, I love you all, right? He's saying there's a top 10 list. That you could shut off to avoid hurt feelings, as well as the bottom 10. Yeah, you know why, Eric? I can see this getting kind of competitive, and that was never our intent. Nothing about this. I'm competitive. I was an athlete. I like to win, but not at the expense that someone else has to lose. And there's definitely philosophies on that. I believe everyone can win, and there's other people that believe someone has to lose in order for you to win. But it is a peer-to-peer recognition program. Thank you so much for that, Eric. And then Peter is saying that in addition to the bucket list app hint, they use intuo.io to share their UROCs or their praises, and then they link them to core values. Oh, I love this. This is essentially what we're doing, right? And then they share them at a happy hour, the givers and the receivers every quarter. You guys work for awesome companies. I absolutely love this. Bree loves her team. I love my team. And it looks like you love the word awesome like me. How fun. And Carrie's got a tip for all of us. Never put your dev on point spontaneously for an award. She's saying, all I could think of is what I don't know what to say in front of 250 people. Can I tell you what we've done? We've actually done group dev awards for the Warrior Spirit Award. So it wasn't, there's like 5 of them. And it's actually one of my favorite pictures. And I almost put it in here. And then I decided not to because I knew that they were like, no, don't do it. Right. I knew they weren't going to want it. But that was one thing that I did handle that, Carrie, for the same reason. Not everyone wants to be the star. And that's the crazy part. I actually don't want to be the star. I ended up becoming the star just by default because I was the CEO, but it's not my comfort place. And then Ben's talking about using Pez dispensers. This is awesome. Oh, Eric said there could be an entire book on how to reward introverts versus extroverts. There is. It's called Quiet. It's excellent. It is actually talks about introverts being excellent leaders and why they get overlooked. So I actually saw the author of Quiet speak at a global conference. So absolutely go to that book. And oh yeah, Maria Elise, you've read the book Quiet. I actually have an introverted daughter. So that was one reason why I bought the book, as well as for the introverted leaders that I have within my organization. So I'll leave you with one tip. If you're managing introverts, your extroverts have no problem jumping in and speaking up. The number one thing that I found with my introverts is that you need to give them the time and space to be able to contribute. So if we're in a presentation, you give them the section or the slides that they're going to present, and you give them time to prepare, because my introverts generally like to prepare, and they need to know that it's their time to jump in. And the same thing if you're having a collaboration session or you know, any kind of conversation, you have to give them the space. And you also can't put them on the spot with a question when they want to do a thoughtful, considered answer. So I can't just bring to an introvert, hey, we were thinking about piloting a program and doing this and that, and all of a sudden throwing all this new information on them, because they're not going to just like want to spitball an idea. They're going to care a little bit more. Wait, let me think about it and come to you with a solution and an idea. So it's just about being a little bit flexible with your introverts and your extroverts, and then also mentoring and training your extroverts to give the introverts time. This is just a personality piece. This isn't like it's not about whose idea is better just because they have the stronger voice. There's a lot of great ideas that could get left unsaid unless you give them the space. And oh wait, Yan, what did you say? You post your UROCs in your intranet we built on Drupal 8 called Echidna Moments. Echnid. Oh, I just butchered that, and this is being recorded. Yan, thank you so much for that. I love how much you guys are contributing to UROCs, contributing to your teams. Please reach out if there's anything that you need from me, but we have gone over by a lot, and I'm so grateful for how many of you stayed on for as long as you did. Is there anything else that I could answer? Oh, Echidna. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. Echidna, an Echidna moment. I love that. Thank you, Stephen. You guys, I really appreciate it. Again, you're going to have all the file. You'll have all the documents. And thank you for that. I was really unsure if leadership was something that DrupalCon was going to want. I love, Richard, that you got really reflective during this time. Yeah, it's a little bit of a different talk for DrupalCon versus, because I could have gone down the angle of UX or personalization. But sometimes when you're doing 3 days of work, it's really good to have a little bit of break and start thinking a little bit about yourself and your own personal growth and where you can take things. Thank you, everybody. And I think we're good. Anyone have anything else for me? Again, reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. Anything you ever need, not just today, but moving forward as you grow in your careers or you grow your businesses. I'm truly happy to help in any capacity. I absolutely love what I do, and anything that I can do to help, count me in. Bye, everybody.